Welcome back to my answers of my 1956 chop top oval known as Eleanore. We took all the questions from the last video that everybody has asked, and we're going to try to answer every single one of them. I had to take multiple takes on this because this thing was a really hard video to put together, to be honest with you. I mean, it was really hard. Some of the questions I had a lousy tone in, or I didn't have enough excitement in my voice, and it made me sound a little bit like a dick, so I had to record a lot of these videos. I mean, what are the chances of me acting or sounding like a dick? I don't know. Nobody's ever seen me be that way before, right, Skeeter? Well, we've got my little girl here today. We're going to be shooting this video, and we're going to answer the first question that actually is about her. Right, Skeeter? We're also going to be announcing... What the hell was that? Sounded like there was something behind me there. I don't see anything. That probably was some paper or something fell down in the garage from the wind. No, I'm hearing it again. What am I hearing? I don't know what I was hearing, but I don't hear it anymore. Well, we're going to announce our video winner also in this video. We're going to talk about him a little bit. I'm going to give a couple of shouts out in this video. So thank you all for watching. Thank you for all those... Thank you for all... Shit. I'm going to get it out yet. Right, Skeeter? Thank you for all that participated in the questions, and thank you for all that are watching this video. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. Thumbs up for Skeeter, right, Skeeter? Please subscribe, and ring that little bell that you see. I guess it's on this side. Maybe it's on this side. Ring that little bell that you see underneath this video right there, next to my subscription buttons. Hit subscribe, hit the little bell. You'll get notified when I upload new videos, and you'll get to see Skeeter and I, as well as Eleanore, whenever we get a new update. Right, Skeeter? So onward to our first question, which is about the duck. You're a good girl. Yes, you are. You got mosquitoes around you. Yeah, Daddy's got bug spray on. What is in your nose? Let me get it. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, Skeeter's a funny little thing. She's very finicky in her own way, but at the same time, as long as her daddy is involved, she likes anything that I've got to offer to her, whether it be, you know, swimming in the pool, whether it be dinner, or whether it be going on a trip someplace or taking a motorcycle ride. Skeeter likes everything. So I'd say as far as this car is concerned, I think she likes it just fine. If her vision were a little better, you know, being that she's 112 years old now in duck years, her eyes aren't as good as they used to be, so she has a little trouble seeing. And of course, being in this car, she sits way down below the windowsill here, so she can't see over it. That's the same problem she had in the Z. In the fastback, it's not so bad. I do put her on top of a little booster seat, which sets her up a little bit higher, so she has the ability to look out the window. For Boomer, that's a big deal. Boomer will, of course, look out, but we're not going to bring Boomer in this car yet because, well, he shits a lot. So he's not going to be in this video. So thank you for that. That was a very cute question, and that was a fun one. It has been asked a couple times if I will lay frame on this vehicle once I've got it rolling on the street. And the answer is no, probably not, because no, I don't really find that shit. Fucking noisy garbage truck. I don't really find it practical to be dragging the frame on the ground. I mean, of course, you're only gonna do that when you park, but other than bragging rights, what would be the purpose of that? I don't really see that as being something necessary on this vehicle. Besides, it won't happen because these wheels that you see on here, they hit the inside headlight bucket from the inside once it's lowered as far as you see it. Frankly, the car is lower than anything I would ever want to drive right now, and of course I'll have that adjustable so I can bring it up to a comfortable ride height when I get on the road and then dump it back down when I park it. And I love this question because when I answer it to people, they never want to believe me. But I cut 8 inches out of this windshield. It's about 7 inches tall right now. This windshield frame is actually from the same 69 that this front clip was that I rebuilt the car with. So it needed the windshield frame cut down into size to make it fit an oval-sized windshield, and then it was cut down even further to turn it into a chop top. So just to demonstrate, this is the size we're looking at now. This is a 69 Beetle windshield. So you can see the difference of about 8 inches that's cut out of there. This here is a stock windshield from the 56. Pretty tremendous difference in size, I must say. Now along the side, I cut down different amounts. Of course, the rear was not cut down as much. The back over here was about 3 inches, and in the center was actually only like 4.5-ish. And I thought it was less than that at another time, but I actually took a measurement on it and found out just how much I cut down from that. And it was a lot more than expected. But the reason why I sloped the roof was because it keeps the natural contour of that car. It keeps that bubble top without having to flatten it out. And some people say, well, you could have quartered the top and then welded the original roof back into it. I still think those look funny. I wanted something that had style, so something that had pizzazz, something that stood out different from all the rest of them. And that's why I built what you see. This car is truly unique, and it gives it kind of an, you can't really tell with the crap I'll put in there, but it gives it an angry scowl. It makes it look like its eyebrows are down. And the car just looks angry appearance, or sinister, as one of my other YouTube friends has defined it as. Yes, I can see out the windshield just fine. I've got the seats attached almost directly to the floor, and it gives me plenty of headroom, and my eyes are aimed right out the windshield. A spoiler on my Beetle? No, I don't think so. Spoilers, well, they do what the name implies, guaranteed to spoil the look of any car. No, the only car I've ever owned with a spoiler is the Z. And the only reason why the Z has it is because the dealer made a mistake when I bought it. It's only a small one and it's subtle. That's the only reason why I let him get away with it, but actually it was free. But because they drilled holes in the deck lid, there was no removing it. Not without changing out the whole deck lid, so I got a free spoiler out of it. Didn't want it, but I wasn't going to pay for it either. Even though they tried to get me to. I absolutely was not. Suicide doors, not a fan. Just not a fan. You know, I'd rather have the door open like a normal car. I don't know. It's just something about doors opening the opposite way than they were intended. For some reason when you do that to some cars, it doesn't look right to me, so I'm not doing it on this car. However, I don't like the hinges. The hinges are just something that stands out to me. You know, the car is so streamlined and so clean and so well defined in its proportions and its shapes, and then there's these hinges that stick out. And they're just unrefined looking, and I know it's a Beetle. It's supposed to be unrefined, but that design was just terrible. So what I'd like to do, sometime down the road, maybe even very, very near future, of course before I paint it, is put some hidden hinges in here. More modern style. Hide them inside the A-pillar area down in here, and just clean that area up entirely so that way they disappear. And that might happen. Yes, I'm going to need custom glass. This, just for example, this is a late model Beetle rear quarter window. The window that came off of the 56 is like this. It is considerably smaller. And this also demonstrates just how much the change in sizes on this car. It not only changed the height, but it also changed the length. So the rear window is a lot smaller. Now my chop top window, and I made a template, and this is the template that I made to make it fit the same on both sides, is significantly smaller. So you can see just how much I cut out of that car, and how this window is actually longer than the 56 one. It actually comes out a little bit extra over here. The reason why is because I took that corner and I pushed it back further. I'm going to have special glass made for this. If I was going to use a piece of vintage glass, and yes, you can cut down a tempered piece of glass. Some people say it's not possible, but yes, it's possible. I would probably have to use a later window, because that's the only one that would fit the template. The template is actually bigger than a stock piece of glass. It would be really nice if I could retain the logos that are on these things. There's a Secure-It logo on them. I don't know if the camera can quite pick it up, but it's right about here. Yeah, there it is. You can see it. It's nice if I can retain that on this glass. If not, I'll paint it on. I want to make it look like it was OEM, like it was a piece that actually came from Volkswagen themselves. So yeah, you can see just how big of a difference and how much I chopped that roof down. And like I was saying, I cut about something like 4 inches out of here, and that's what you're looking at right here is your 4-inch drop. If I was comparing it against a late model, and I cut even more inches out of it than that. But yeah, that's the piece of glass that I'm looking at. And yes, I'll have to have these cut custom. Same goes for the windshield, which you've seen already in another section of this video, so I'll have to have that cut as well. But yeah, that's what we got. And I may be using some custom Lexan temporarily until I can get the glass figured out, situated, or paid for. That way I can get it in the show a little faster. I really want to see that car in the show circuits. Well, the back window, however, is completely stock. And there's a reason for that. I wanted a piece of glass on here that didn't get cut down, because this is what defines the oval and what it is. Changing the size and dimensions of this changes the character of the car and makes it something else. The oval had to stay. The W deck lid had to stay. That was something I didn't want to cut. And what's funny is actually this window is now the tallest window on this car, because the quarter windows are smaller than it, and the windshield is even smaller than that. So what used to be the smallest window on an oval is now the biggest window on this car. I find that rather fascinating. And that, of course, leads us into the next question. The rubbers, the window seals that are required for some of these cut down windows are actually ones that come off of windows they're not specified for. For example, the rubber seal that's on this oval, and this is just a coincidence, fits on these quarter windows. It's actually the same size. So I've got a set of quarter window seals, which are just oval seals, which will put the windows in the sides of the car. The front windshield is cut down in such a way that when I took measurements of it, it actually takes a square rear windowed Beetle seal, and that'll fit on the windshield. So all my seals are readily available. I'm not going to have any problems with that at all. And as far as the door seals are concerned, you actually bend and form those into the shapes that they're supposed to be. So it's just a matter of twisting them and contorting them into the right shape and then cutting off the excess. And the doors will fit just the same, so that's not even a big deal at all. But these are unsplit. They have the original forming in there where they're glued together, so I don't have to worry about trying to glue these together myself or worry about them stretching, which is usually what happens when they age, and when you cut them, that gap will open up. Well, that won't be a problem on this car. And like I said, that was merely an accident. I had no idea that that seal was going to fit on that window until I put it together and tried it. Well, that's kind of a snarky question, and ordinarily I wouldn't even address. But it is a good question because it's related to something that I haven't done on this car. You notice there's no windshield wiper holes. I've eliminated that. I probably won't be putting wipers on this car, and if I do, I'll be doing something custom. And I'm thinking something that does a straight wipe all the way across, because when you get them little short wiper blades, they're not very effective. They just wipe out a real small section of your windscreen. And I don't plan on driving this thing in the rain ever. So it won't be likely that I'm ever going to require some type of windshield wipers on here. So we'll see how I feel about that in the future, but chances are it's not getting any wipers. Why so wide? Because wider is better. Well, I've answered this question probably a lot of times in many other comments and many other videos, but the air was only put on this temporarily so that way I can get the tires off of the headlight bucket so I can get the car to the car show. I slipped a tow bar under it and got it moved to the car show that way, and then of course dumped the air back out of it and put it back down on the ground the way you see it. Hydraulics really aren't an option to me. I want a nice ride, And hydraulics give you a really stiff suspension. You might as well remove your shocks and replace them with a steel bracket instead, because that's about how rough your ride is going to be. There are other methods to hydraulics, not just hydraulic shocks rather, but hydraulic, it's a winder, if you will. It will wind up your torsion bars or torsion leaves by way of hydraulics to keep your suspension feeling like stock, but allows you to change your ride height. I like that, but the fellow that makes the kit is here in Florida, but it's a little expensive for my taste. So I've got a few other options involved that I've been kicking around to build my own suspension system that is electric, and you will see how that operates sometime in the near future. But no hydraulics, no air. I'd like to have something that doesn't leak. Hydraulics escape, you're bottomed out. Air escapes, you're bottomed out. Electric system, I can wind it up manually or down and make adjustments accordingly manually if I need to. So that's the reason why we're going to do that. So going with the whole widened theme, you had to get widened fenders. And widened fenders are made by several different manufacturers, and these are fiberglass, which is the only downside to them. They do take a bit of a beating from me in the garage. I tend to walk into them by accident and bump them, and I have put a couple of cracks in the gel coat as a result. Down the road I may wind up making some metal ones. These, I do like them though, because they just, the size and shape of them is just right. It's just right. So as long as they hold up and they stay in one piece, I'm going to hang on to them. But I picked these up about 22 years ago, roughly, at a Volkswagen car show in Lakeland, Florida. That just goes to show how long I've had them. But there's several manufacturers of them. You should be able to pull up your favorite search engine and find a set. I'm sure the prices have gone way up since the time when I got them, so you know, good luck to you, and you know, shop and search around. I have no brand loyalty, so look for a good deal and buy what's best for you. So why did I use high back seats instead of the low ones? Well, the answer is I find high back seats to be much more comfortable. The seats that you actually see in here are the same seats that belong in my 350Z. So I love the fact that those seats are going on here, and I find them to be quite comfortable. They fit to my body quite well. It's what I'm used to. And I bought them for the 350Z because the Z seats were wearing out. I ended up with an unbelievable deal on them that I had found on a very large, well-known trading website. So I went and picked those up not too far from here. The guy was really nice, met me halfway, and I brought them home, and ended up just sitting in my spare bedroom for a while. When I got this car, I got the bright idea, why don't I just use what I already have and put them into this car? Now the seat tracks that were on this were all butchered up. Somebody was mounting these seats in an RX-7 originally, and just totally ruined the seats tracks in the process. So I've got a video that I recorded last summer of me building new seat track mounts for this set of seats, and I will be putting that video up sometime in the very, very near future once I finish editing it. And in fact, that will be the very next video that comes up for the update on this oval. So stay tuned for that. It's really windy out here today. I hope this microphone muff is doing a good job of silencing the wind. This actually is a little bit of movie money that I had on the set of a John Schneider film that I got to see. They threw this on the ground, and as they were picking up, I picked it up. So it was kind of cool to have that. Anyway, how much do I have in the car? Well, I don't like giving answers to exact numbers because just you never know who's watching, whether it be somebody I'm buying or selling to, or you know, if the tax man happens to be involved here, because every time that you buy something or you sell something, you got to pay your taxes, guys. So anyway, I'm actually in the plus on this car, and I got to keep it too. The reason why is because I've traded off a lot of the things that I've had on this vehicle. Stuff that was just full of holes and rotten, stuff that I had no interest in, people actually wanted because it was an original piece. So the amount of cost that I had it for dollars, I was actually way up in the plus for quite a while. Up until I started to have to buy Porsche parts for the brakes and suspension work that I started to do on here. And of course, once you start paying for anything with the Porsche name, you're paying the Porsche tax. So there's a premium that you do pay for those parts. So yeah, it would have been certainly a lot easier to have just done a Volkswagen brake conversion, or maybe just to get some other brake kit like a Willwood kit or something. Actually, I stand corrected. The Willwood kits are going to cost me more than what I paid for the Porsche parts that are on here. So no, it was probably better to go with the Porsche parts, I think. Plus I get that ability to brag that I've got Porsche brakes, Porsche suspension underneath this Beetle. So anyway, as far as the cost is concerned, yeah, I actually made some money on it up until I started to buy the Porsche stuff on it. Now I'm actually in the hole. Not that much, not as much as you might think. So this car is actually coming together, and I did it for cheapness, really, especially when it came down to repairing the body, because I used a lot of the stuff that I already had, things that I traded off for other stuff that I wasn't going to use, things that came as part of a swap with another car or another vehicle, got thrown in the deal, and ended up as part of this car. Also, washing machines. As I mentioned before, washing machines and stoves. There was a lot of sheet metal that came off of those to make this car whole again. So yeah, a lot of things came on this car I either paid nothing for or traded off and got a deal on. It didn't cost me out of pocket. As far as how much time I've got into it, probably about 200 hours, I would say. I mean, I never really sat down and did the math. There was a lot of weekends that I put into it, sometimes getting up as early as 7, 8 in the morning and working till long after the sun is down, putting in a 12-hour day. Then there's other times that I only put in 30 minutes to an hour, but if I had to add it all up, I'd say about 200 hours, but it's still probably going to be, I'm going to give it maybe another 200 hours until this car is going to be the way I want it. Have I cut and made shortcuts and things like that? Yeah, I have, because there have been things that were too hard to fix or too hard to repair, so I just replaced them entirely with either some other part, like the 69 front end that I put on here, or made it with some sheet metal that I had from a stove or a washing machine. As far as haters are concerned, I really haven't had too many. I figured I was going to get a whole lot more of them in person, especially when I brought this car to the car show for the first time. I figured people were going to look at it and be real nasty about the fact that I cut up an old oval, as rare as they are. But in this case, as you've seen, if you've watched the history on this car, I rebuilt something that was never going to exist again. It would have been to a scrapyard and somebody would have destroyed it long before it ever would have become something like this. Too far gone is the words often used by people, but I don't much like that remark, and it's always been a challenge for me. If somebody says I can't do something, I'm going to do it. I'm going to show them exactly how I can and exactly that it is possible. So there it is. And as far as the haters are concerned, yes, I've gotten a few. Probably about 2 or 3, I think, is really all that there was, and every single one of them was on social media. There was 1 or 2 on YouTube, and I think at least 2 on Facebook, so maybe it was about 4, that said things like, this car is too far gone, it's a piece of shit, you shouldn't be restoring it, I can't believe you're just going to cut up an old oval, why would you do that to a small windowed Beetle? I mean, you know, as rare as these cars are, they think that it was really something special to start out with, but honestly, it was junk. The car was garbage to start out with, and really had no hope in the condition that it was, and for most people, they probably never would have taken it on at all. For the most part, most body components will fit between vehicles. Sometimes you do have to change something else out to make it fit. For example, the front hood that's on here is actually from a 60s model, but the whole front clip, and you could tell by the little gas door right there, almost the whole front clip is off of a 69. That was required because the old 56 one was just rotted to hell, so I had to replace almost the entire front clip. Pretty much everything on this car has been replaced by things of different years, and for that which I didn't have or I couldn't get easily, I made parts from old washing machines and old stoves. So yes, this car is part Kenmore. Well, the word fix implies that something is broken. And I must say that I don't feel this car is broken. I very much like the way it's shaped. I get a lot of compliments on this car the way it is, and I wanted something truly unique and different. So there's no fixing this car. This car is fixed. The state that the car was in versus what it's in now, this car has been fixed. So there's no more fixing that's going to be necessary as far as making the roof shaped the way someone else wants it. This is how I want the car. I wanted the car to look aggressive, and that's why you see what you see. So what was my inspiration for this 1956 Volkswagen Beetle, and why did I chop it? Well, I've always wanted a Beetle ever since I was a boy, since I first knew what they were. I mean, I guess I could barely talk even at the time. I was probably only a couple years old. And I just loved the cars, and I didn't realize I was going to have quite an appreciation for them until I actually got old enough to be able to work on them and discover just how simple they actually were. These cars just they're awesome. They're just awesome. But I guess I was about 18 years old, and I was at a car show down in Fort Myers, Florida. A chop-top Beetle had cruised into the car show, and I had never seen a chop-top car before and even recognized that that's what it was. But as soon as I saw the Beetle with its nice widened fenders, kind of like what I've got on mine here, I mean, I was just... I didn't know you could have a Beetle that looked so cool. Rather than being so cute, it looked mean and aggressive, and that's just one of the things that I really love about this car. And that was probably what started the fire and the reason why I wanted one so bad. The second thing is I've been following a guy named Eric Fernan, and Eric Fernan did a chop top on his own Beetle over on Volksrods.com. Now I'm going to promote that website, and I'm going to tell you to go there because they provided a wonderful service to share all kinds of things to their members, and they haven't charged me a dime. So I figured, why not give something back? Go to Volksrods.com and look up the Fernan Chop. And a lot of his ideas gave me inspiration as to what I can do on my own Beetle here. And I guess you could say stole some of his ideas. They weren't all mine, and I twisted it and changed things a little bit and made it look different than what he's got. So you know, you don't look at it and you say, oh, I copied Eric's car. No, it's completely different to Eric's car. Eric is also a Florida guy. He lives over on the other coast of Florida. I'm way up here in the Panhandle, and I think he's south of Jacksonville somewhere over on the East Coast. So I hope I get to meet him someday. I'll probably wind up taking this thing over to the shows over on the East Coast someday when I get this thing together. And Eric, if you're watching, you know, thank you so much for your inspiration. I mean, the things that you've done and the way that you built your car was a huge push forward for mine. Because without that, I don't know that I would have done things quite the same way. And honestly, I probably would have fucked it up. So that was a big part of my inspiration. Now, did I have any doubts on the project? When I first brought the oval home, I gotta say, it looked totally helpless in my driveway. I mean, it was just a piece of shit. It was leaving crust on the ground from where it was sitting. I mean, not just like a dusting or little bits and pieces. I mean, there was like mountains of shit in the driveway. Just rusty shit that was just falling off of that car. I would say just sitting in my driveway, the thing probably shed another 10 or 15 pounds of weight just sitting there, and just the pieces just falling off of it. And looking at that, you know, I wondered, I really did wonder if I was going to get this car together, if I was really going to be able to put it back together, and even if there was enough of it left to do what I wanted to do with it. I really had no idea until I just started hitting it with the Sawzall and just started pulling it all apart. And then started digging through my heap and started talking to other people. I've got myself a clip here for the front end and rebuilt that, and a lot of the rest of it was either just junk I had around from other cars that I fixed or pieces of appliances. You wouldn't believe how many stoves, washing machines, and dryers this car is built from. Probably about 3. I think there's 3 of them in here. You know, those big sheet metal sides that you see on there, those are awesome pieces to fix cars. They're thick, they're rigid, they're strong, and they're not rusty. They're already pre-painted even. Of course, if you're going to cut them and you're going to weld on them, that's going to flake off. But yeah, they're really nice pieces to use for rebuilding your car. And when you see somebody throw a washing machine out, grab it before the recyclers do. Then you can take the rest of it and you can recycle it, and you can actually make probably, you know, $5-10 on the thing when you take it in for recycling. But of course, plug it in first, see if it works. You never know. If it works, you can go ahead and sell it and you make yourself $100 instead. Well, anyway, those 2 were really, really good questions, and I appreciate those. Nobody has asked me these things before, and I actually had to put my mind together to wrap around the what I was going to answer, because I hadn't really thought about it. I really hadn't. So, I mean, this was a really good question, and thanks again for asking it. I really appreciate it. As far as what welder I used to have this little blue one here that you see on the floor. This did the majority of the welds that are on here, and the quality of them isn't exactly the best, because you had to be careful, because the only thing it would do was burn through. It didn't have much of an adjustment on there. There's a high and a low, and that's it. And it's pretty awful. But I had it about 10 years. It failed multiple times. I've taken it apart and rebuilt it. In fact, it's missing the side cover on it because I had it apart so many times I just stopped putting it together. But I upgraded to a red one. And this red one, not saying the brand name, maybe you got to see it, the quality of the welds, far better. far better. And this is where I finished up on this car. I did the bottom of that guy, and that was the last I did. I'm going to come around and hit some of the other spots that still need welding. I got to weld in along here yet. And I still got to weld in around the dashboard and get a few other things finished up. But that little blue one did good for about 10 years, but it wasn't the best welder. And you notice there's no bottle, and that's because I use mostly flux core, just because of its simplicity. So why do they get these phone dial wheels? And the answer, in short, is I got them for such an unbelievable deal that I couldn't say no to them. But I was going to put them onto one of my other project cars. I have a yellow 1970 Carmen Ghia that needed a set of wheels, and I always thought that these looked really cool on a Carmen Ghia, so I got them to put on there. Well, the Carmen Ghia is, it's still here, but I've got somebody interested in buying it, and I really wanted to keep these wheels for something else. So they wound up here on the oval. And since I was upgrading everything to Porsche brakes with 5 lugs, it only made sense to put the Porsche wheels directly onto it. My favorite feature on this vehicle probably has to be the oval rear window and the W deck lid. Something so unique about the look of these cars and how they were originally designed versus how they ended up in later years. It was just something that just calls out uniqueness to this. It looks special, it looks very Germanic and very of that era. And the second most favorite feature probably has to be what I added to it, and that's the bragging rights of the Porsche suspension that's under here. I think that's kind of special, especially for any Volkswagen, but for this one, I find it very unique and interesting. And so far, other people have as well. Of course I'll post more progress videos. I didn't plan on stopping anytime soon. So yeah, stick around on my channel. Make sure that you've subscribed, of course, and I'll be making more updates. Will I post them more frequently than I have been? Probably yes. I mean, as my YouTube channel continues to grow, I've been pushing a lot harder at getting these videos updated and uploaded more frequently than what I had done in previous past. Yes, I'll be sticking with this, and I do have to really say that I appreciate the comments and the support that everybody has given me in this build, as well as my other builds and all the other things that I do on my channels. So, like I said, subscribe. I mean, click the like button if you like these things. That motivates me to do more, and then I'll be posting more updates based on the amount of traffic that these things get. The more traffic they get because of the more likes and the more subscriptions and yada, 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 of course, the more updates I'm going to post. So, thanks you guys. Really, it makes a huge difference. Well, I can't answer any of the finished questions without lying to you, because I really don't know when it's going to be done. This car could be finished in a few months. It could be finished this summer. It might not be until a year from now. But I will say that paint is probably one of the final stages in finishing or completing this car. So anyway, we're just going to have to stick around because, of course, I can't predict the future. So I really don't know when this car is going to get done. I just don't know. I'm going to stay on it, though. I'd like to get it on the road as soon as possible. Can always take it apart and repaint it again later. And we'll see how that all turns out, but like I said, I just can't tell the future. And like most projects around here, they never really get finished anyway, because I just keep taking them back apart and doing something different to it. I'm never satisfied, I'm spoiled. And that's one of the reasons why the CR500 isn't done yet either. That's one of the reasons why nothing that I have is ever going to be completed, because I really enjoy tinkering, and I like taking things apart and making them better. Well, I think what's being asked here in both of these questions is about wheel spacing of the front wheel under the front fender. And no, that has not been settled yet. I still haven't gotten this assembly finalized to figure out exactly how I want it on the car and exactly how much it's going to offset that wheel. So I don't know where to stop yet on this, but these two questions are actually deserving of their very own video. So this will be covered in an upcoming video all by itself. So I'm going to need you guys to stick around and subscribe, click like on these videos and follow what I'm doing here, and you'll see what's coming up on this very shortly, probably as soon as next week. I'll be doing a next update on this. But yeah, this was a bit more complicated than I thought it was, only because there was other problems that I had run into, which is a little bit beyond the scope of the project even, but you know, whenever you build something, you always run into some kind of issues. But yeah, we'll talk about that in an upcoming video, so there's your cliffhanger. So stick around, you guys. I appreciate it. This is probably our most asked question that I got on that last video. The most liked one belonged to Kevin Rutherford. He's our winner of our contest, and he's the one that gets a $25 gift certificate. I emailed it over to him so he didn't have to wait for it to be shipped to him. And he took advantage of it last week, and I hope he did something good with it. He had a project he was working on, and he'll get into details of that on his own YouTube channel. So here's a link to his page. Check it out. He's a newly starting out YouTube channel, but he does tool reviews and a few other things, so he's definitely worth checking out. Go over there, give him a subscription, check out his videos, and check out his video response to this video, where he will talk about his winnings and what he did with them. And, you know, give him a like, go ahead and comment on his video and say that I sent you over. It'll make him feel good, and it certainly is good for his YouTuber and his YouTube views. I appreciate it. Well, it goes without saying that that engine is not going to get me home. I have kicked around a few different ideas on this engine configuration that I'm going to be putting in this car, but to get the car on the road as quickly as possible, once I finish that body work, I actually have a 1600 stock engine that's ready to go. So I should be able to bolt this in and get the car on the road immediately. Down the road, I do have parts to build, probably about a 2-liter, I have to do the math, but roughly right around a 2-liter engine with a stroker crank and bigger pistons and a cam. I mean, I've got everything that I need to do it, except the time to actually assemble the engine. But I will get around to it eventually, and it'll probably wind up in this car. Have I considered something else like a VR6? No. VR6 I think would be just silly. I don't really like the idea of putting a water-cooled Volkswagen engine into here. If I'm going to go water-cooled, yes, I will consider a Subaru. Would I consider an older Porsche? I would say probably 25 years ago when I was a kid, and I wanted to put a souped-up engine inside of a Beetle. An older Porsche engine probably would have been a fair choice at the time, because they would have been, dime a dozen. A lot of them older Porsches were around in wrecker yards still, and they might have actually had a good motor in it for a cheaper price. But nowadays, that stuff has gone up so much in price because of the vintage aspect of it, that I can't afford that, and it's not the best bang for the buck. If I was going to put a bigger engine in here that would be a non-Volkswagen, it would probably be a Subaru, and I think that might even be an option down the road. It is something that I have been looking into for a while. It is something that I would definitely like to see, and that just might be what winds up in here finally, when I can finally call the car some version of finished, if you will. Special thanks once again to all of the people that asked our questions that I answered in this video. What are you doing? What are you doing? You got some crusty on your face. There you go. Special thanks to everybody that asked a question that I got to answer in this video here. Skeeter had a good time with Daddy today, didn't you? Yes, he did. He liked to play with Daddy. I'm really glad that everybody asked a ton of questions for the last video. I mean, it was really awesome to have that. This video, as a result, was really hard to put together. There was just so much content that you guys came up with for me by just asking me the right questions that I had to answer. Right, Skeeter? Yes, it was. So we had a great time setting this video up and putting it all together, and it took a little longer to get it together than I expected. I mean, a little over a week. I was expecting, one night and, one day of recording, and it's not going to be too big of a deal. But no, it turned out to be quite a project. So we're probably going to wind up doing a contest again in the future. This was fun, as I said. I enjoyed this. There was a lot of great content. It produced a video of over 30 minutes. So, what you doing, Skeeter? What are you doing? You just kind of sitting there. You got poopy on, Daddy. Yeah, you did. You got some poopy on you, Daddy. We're sitting in the passenger seat over here because I've got the driver's seat out currently for service. These damn mosquitoes. You see, these things are just everywhere. It is that season again here in Florida. Yeah, now they're on Daddy. Daddy's got bug spray, but they're still on Daddy. They can't bite you because you got feathers. Well, anyway, I hope you stick around watching. Make sure that you click the subscribe button as well as ring that little bell that you see over here on the bottom of this video. If you click that little bell and you hit subscribe, you will be notified whenever I upload a new video. So so YouTube will be sending you out a notification when that happens, and you'll get to see what's coming up. Now, one of the next features that we have next week is going to be the CR500. That's right, we're getting an update on the CR500. So please stick around, subscribe, and we'll be back next week. CR500. Right, Skeeter?